Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
And I'm Trudy J. And this week we are joined by the delightful Alessandra Torre.
Hey, Alessandra. Welcome back. A third timer.
Third
Yes.
timer on the podcast.
There's a medal for that. We're still getting them cast, but there is a medal.
Any day now.
The mailbox every day.
Yeah. Any day now.
So this week we are talking to Alessandra about a topic that we have hesitated over a little bit. Because it's all about AI, and we know that there are some people who are really excited and enthusiastic about AI, and there are also some people who are not, who are worried, scared, anxious, angry about AI. And so we decided we wanted to deal with the subject of AI in a way that will hopefully help people and help with some of the fear maybe, and also just open up some discussion perhaps. I don't know. It's an evolving topic, and we're just trying to become part of that, become part of the discussion. So and to help us with that, we decided to find someone who we admired in the indie space, who had worked hard on her own books for many years in the indie world, and also on behalf of other indie authors as well. And we've got Alessandra basically to do that for us. She's the mastermind behind IncasCon, which is a conference that's been running for how long now, Alessandra? Many years.
I think we're in year 7.
7 years. On behalf of self-published authors, it's a fantastic resource. And she's also shared tirelessly her own knowledge and expertise with other authors in many other ways. And so that's why we decided to bring you on today to help us talk about the subject of AI for the very first time properly on the Spa Girls podcast. So welcome. Welcome for all of that.
And thank you. And I don't take this honor lightly, and because it is a really hotbed topic, and it's something that I have conflicting opinions. I mean, conflicting emotions on, and I'll have to. And just for full disclosure, I've been working in the field of AI for 6 years. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Authors AI. We launched way before AI was a bad word. I mean, it was really it was classic AI. It still is classic AI. We work in classic AI. And it is, which I'll talk about the different types of AI in a little bit. So, cool. But I am, just for full disclosure, I am biased in this space, in that I have been working in AI. And so I've seen what has changed in the last, 6 years. And I have a little bit of a different insight, different viewpoint. And so I'm excited to talk about this.
I think that history is so important, Alessandra. And just because I remember when Marlowe was first born, first of all, really cool name, but also just it was probably the first in the author space that people were talking about, and it's sort of so anyway, that's authors.ai, just saying.
So just quickly, I want to actually read out your bio, which I haven't actually done yet, and then we'll just get into the very first question. So Alessandra Torre is the New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal best-selling author of over 35 novels, specializing in contemporary romance and domestic suspense, more recently writing as A.R. Torre. She is a prominent hybrid author, speaker, and founder of IncasCon and the CEO of Authors AI. So nothing that we haven't, but you're established author in this space, and we respect the work that you've done and everything that you've done for the community. So let's just get in here. So to start with, so we know that this is a difficult topic, and there's people who are on both sides who are, strong opinions. But how do you think about AI from your perspective as an indie author who's been in the industry for a long time? Like, what's your take?
Yeah, so I came into it a little bit sideways because, like I said, when I started using or getting familiar with AI, and I'm not a data scientist, I'm not on the tech side. I was part of 120 authors that helped to fund Authors AI, and that our research has always been in analyzing bestsellers, and then analyzing good sellers and okay sellers, and understanding the patterns and commonalities that exist in bestsellers. So it's using AI from an analytical and analysis standpoint. And I was really interested in this topic. There's a book called The Bestseller Code, which
Yes,
was
I was just going to say. Yeah.
yeah, it was published by my co-founder, Dr. Matthew Jockers, and his partner, Dr. Jody Archer, years ago. But it like recognized things like that. A UK author would use the word "the" more in a book than an US author. So a lot of just really interesting things. It's a fascinating read. It's still applicable today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great read. So that really fascinated me, diving in to look at what is unique about bestsellers, and can we figure out what it is, why some readers really have stronger read through with certain stories, and what are those patterns that exist, if they exist. And the second and once we kind of dove into that and using technology to understand that, then it really led to, okay, what if a reader is looking for a book, and we know that they liked all of these books, like what are the commonalities in all of these books? And then what books out of this library of 2 million books, I forget that some people are listening can't see my dramatic hand gestures, this library of 2 million books over here, what are 10 books out of that library of 2 million that would appeal to this reader? So it was really like, can we surface undiscovered books, right? Or books that might have been written 8 years ago, versus today, and can we surface these books and deliver them to readers that this is their perfect book, and so that all of that is fascinating to me as an author. It's fascinating for us to, as a team, try to figure out, well, what is important to an author? Is it more important writing style or topics, or content in the book, right? So is a reader more interested in just a rom-com, or do they specifically like Megan Quinn's writing style and that's what they want, or adversely, will a John Grisham fan only read legal thrillers, or will they read another author that is very similar in every way to John Grisham? So it was really diving into that level of technology. So when Chat GPT came out, I already had a comfort level with AI from everything we had been doing. Chat GPT and LLMs and generative AI really changed the game in kind of a scary way. And it also just suddenly brought AI to the forefront and into an average person's hands, which before, when they were dealing with AI, it was in ways they weren't even aware that they were doing, right? Putting in a destination and a map and it calculating the route and then it was AI in a different way. And so suddenly it was like you're interacting and having a conversation with this AI, and it is very different. So to answer your question, which I've done a horrible job at doing, which is what is my personal, stance on AI, is my personal stance as a creative and as an author is I don't want AI to replace my creative process at all. I don't use AI for any generative purpose in terms of creating my writing. I use AI to make my job easier in some of the areas that I don't like, and also to see insights that I cannot. I and a human editor is never going to be able to tell me that the dialogue percentage of my novel is 28% and versus my average dialogue percentage, which is 22%, and that the first quarter of my book is higher in dialogue frequency than the second. That's something a human is never going to be able to tell me,
Yeah.
And so I use AI in the ways to try to be smarter in my editing and in my research and in my process, and to stop me from going down rabbit holes at times that would be too time consuming. So that is personally how I use AI. I know there are authors that are adamantly against AI in any use, which is absolutely fine. I do think there is a lot of authors that are against AI, but maybe don't understand some of the ways they're already using AI, or there might be use cases of AI that they would be okay with if they knew a little bit more about it. And so that's why I'm hoping conversations like today might uncover some of those. And if you leave from this conversation and you're like, nope, not touching, not setting foot near AI, that's fine too. Unfortunately, it's encroaching in so much. There is oftentimes you don't have a choice. You're using it,
Yeah.
or you're not going to be able to complete a task.
That's it. I feel like it's becoming so baked into so much of what we do. I think that black and white, I will never use it, is personally, my stance is I don't think anybody can say that unless you live literally off grid completely, and never use Word, never use,
Yeah.
just
Or at some point, like your stubbornness is costing you time,
yeah,
and I hate to say stubbornness, but like I'll use an example later on in this conversation where I think majority of people would be okay with this, but but you can do it yourself. It will just take you 10
yeah,
15 hours.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you've got a tagline for Authors AI that you're helping authors use AI ethically and responsibly. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like what do how do you decide what's ethical and what's not, and what's responsibly, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really, it's funny you say that tagline because I'm not familiar with that tagline.
Well, maybe it was
but I like it. It's just funny. Like, I'm like, oh, wait, I should look at that on Brand Voice. Yeah. So to me, ethical is a very personal, personal statement. But we do have an ethical use statement on Authors AI about how we use manuscripts and how we train on manuscripts and what we as a company believe, what we as a company believe is very similar to me. We don't want AI to replace humans and in the creative process and in the creation process. We strictly use AI to help authors spot ways to improve their books. And we are developing ways to help surface books, like surface titles to readers, and to help publishers better understand what's in their backlist, so that they can promote books that are similar to each other, that sort of thing. We look at a lot of like how do books work in a book universe.
Yeah.
It's really important that you know how technologies are trained and what they're trained on, because this is something that came to light when ChatGPT came out, and suddenly like AI was in thing. It's like, okay, well, and this is where the whole Anthropic lawsuit came from, is that it trained on books that it didn't have permission to train on. So we as a company have only ever trained on books that we have either received permission from the author, permission from the publisher, or we purchased the titles specifically for training purposes. So we do have a publisher with tens of thousands of books that has given us permission to train on. We have customers who have given us permission to train on their books. We have never ever trained on a book whether or not we had the customer permission, and we finally just removed that question, because we aren't going to ever train on a customer book, even if they said you can. So we have taken that question off of our submission form, because some authors agreed to that 4 years ago before they knew, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so we will never and will never train on a customer's manuscript. So we've only ever trained on books that we have acquired legally. So that's always important that and unfortunately it's a really hard question to find the answer to with most companies, because either they just plug into like Anthropic or ChatGPT. Authors AI, we've built the AI from scratch, so it is, we don't, we coded Marlo ourselves and trained it. But it's really important. So for us, ethically, is we don't train on customer submissions. Customer submissions are never exposed in any way. Our team doesn't see the customer submissions, or a human never interacts with the submission unless there is some tech issue that the customer reaches out to us and asks us to troubleshoot with them, or they didn't understand the results and maybe we need to run it on our side. So that's the only time a manuscript is ever seen by a human. Ethically, and what was the other word?
I think responsibly.
Yeah. So it's just making sure that we have proper security protocols, making sure we're not exposing a manuscript in a way that the author is not okay or with. And we don't develop generative AI. We don't develop any product that will brainstorm for you or outline for you or create text for you. And not that I'm judging any author who uses an AI like that, but that's not our area. That's not what we focus on or build.
Yeah.
Do you use a generative AI personally as an author, or like ChatGPT?
I use ChatGPT for research, and I use it in my editorial process which I'm happy to talk about now if you'd like to talk about, or I use ChatGPT heavily. I don't use it to ever write or rewrite my I use it to more well, I use it in a lot of ways.
We'll talk about the specifics
Yeah.
soon, but
we'll put a pin in that for right now. Yeah, I use it in a lot of ways.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. I was just making sure. So, and there are many different types of AI, but you've said that there's two different ones that are kind of most important for authors. So could you just quickly talk about that and explain the difference between the two?
Yeah. Yeah, when you're looking at any AI and whether or not you're going to use it, there's generative AI, which, well, there is AI that generates text, and that's what I'm talking. And so that for most authors is where they draw the line in what they are okay with and what they're not okay with. And what has happened with ChatGPT and everything else is that kind of all AI has gotten lumped into this, like AI replacing humans. But and it thinks like a human and it creates like a human. So that is what I'm going to refer to in this conversation as generative AI. And so if you are an author that is unsure about it, then or you're like, I am not comfortable and I don't like AI, you probably feels very strongly about generative AI. And I don't use that's my line in the sand. I'm not using AI to write for me or to help me with what I consider human creative processes. Analytical AI, which is what Marlowe is, and what you're probably using with AutoCrit or Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly already, is that now Grammarly will go into generative. Like if a lot of times if it wants to rewrite a sentence for you, that is what I consider generative. Which isn't to say I've never had Grammarly rewrite a sentence for me. I have, especially in emails, and I use the Grammarly plugin for everything. So a lot of times it does. That to me journeys a little into my personal uncomfort level. So I don't use Grammarly in that context, and I don't put my manuscripts in Grammarly for that. But that is potentially, but vast majority of Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid is more analytical. Analytical AI is something that, again, can read large amounts of text and then pull data for either databasing or searching or filtering or any number of uses. So, and that to me as an author, I'm okay with. So and that also is a line in the sand that like KDP or retailers will say when they want to know, did you use AI assistance? They're talking about analytical, or did you use AI in the creation of text, images, or any other part of your book? And they don't care about AI assistance. They don't care about analytical uses. They don't care about Marlowe or editorial programs. What they care about is if those editorial programs are rewriting part of your book or have created the text for your book. So that's also like a line in the sand that retailers and a lot of the publishers that we work with at Authors AI, if it's generative, they're not interested in it. Analytical is what they're interested.
I do. So first of all, I'm really quite pro AI. I'm just putting that out there. The Spa Girls all have their different things. And I feel like generative is bleeding more into things. I've got Pro Writing Aid, for example, and the thing with the publishers though is that they're all using AI in their own in-house AI. So I think for them to kind of I don't know, maybe it's just because I've been around so long, Alessandra, and saw what Harlequin frankly did to their authors. I wouldn't trust them to say that they're not using generative AI in-house themselves. Like, I think they will say what sounds good on the outside, but I don't think it's as black and white as that they'd only use assistive because.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you. And like, for example, generative AI, and this is something I don't have an issue with using generative AI. I don't want it to write my stories or my novels or rewrite descriptions for me, but I am okay with it writing marketing copy for me.
Yeah.
For my mind, I'm fine with that. And I'm certain that publishers use it for marketing copy.
100%.
Not to.
Yeah.
So that's one of those areas. Again, every author needs to make their decisions. Are you okay with I personally have no issue with it. I'd be fine with it writing emails for me if it did a better job at it. I don't ever have it do my newsletters because it's like there's no way you can come in my head and think about what I want to write and make it sound like me. But I would be fine with that. It doesn't bother me. I wouldn't write, like a letter to my grandmother using
No.
it. But as far as like marketing copy, taglines, hooks, it's really good at that.
Yeah.
And that is generative. And that's also one of those things that just an author needs to decide, like,
Yeah.
are they okay with that or not okay with that?
That's
Personally,
right.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just nothing is black and white. I think there's always nuance to everything. It's really difficult to have a silo and say it's only this or I'm only using this. And I understand the intent behind that, but I think it's fine to have it personally, but what upsets me is when I see online authors basically not fighting, but really putting down other authors and saying, well, I'm using it this way, which is better than the way you're using it. And I just find that so hypocritical because,
Yeah.
lady, if you're using Photoshop, you're using generative AI. Like, I've been using Photoshop since, Adam was a baby, and what it can do now compared to what I used to have to do in terms of replacement of, objects or editing or whatever, it's taken hours off, photo manipulation or whatever. So I think I just really don't want to see this kind of disparity of people siloing what's okay and what's not, because I think it just creates so much disharmony in the author community. I just want people to be kinder to each other.
Yeah.
How's that? That's my
old hug.
I think we'd like that in the entire world.
Wouldn't we?
Respect.
Why does everything have to be
And that just
so
played into
black and white?
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I just, oh man. But and the other thing is when you're loading things to Amazon, it does ask, has it had extensive editing, or has it, so there is sort of even nuance on that part as well. To me, if somebody's generating the entire text without running a human eye over it, that's vastly different to somebody using generative AI to work through that first draft, if you like, and then the author guiding all the rest of it. Like it's I don't know, maybe it's because I'm Libran, but I just see all sides of it, and I don't, there's so much nuance to it.
Well, and the other area that for me is really hard I don't know how I feel about it. Like I haven't stepped into this area because I don't know how I feel about it. I on both sides is things like, I work with so many authors, newer authors or authors that have written 10 or 15 books, but they're just not making any money. They don't have money. And audiobooks, AI audiobooks or translations. They will never be able, not never be able to, I don't want to say that, but they will not hire, they don't have the funds to hire a human narrator. And so it's not like they're taking money off of a human narrator, but they don't have the money to hire a human narrator. So is it better for them just to never have any book in audio, or is it better to have an audiobook? I'm not going to do it because I have the money. I can just hire a human. So it's easy. I don't have to make that decision for myself. But the same with like translations. There's really good. First of all, I've heard that just straight translation is horrible. But if you have an AI translate it and then you have a native human from that country go through and do an edit, I think I'm fine with that. Again, it's not something I've done, but if I was going to get a book, if I had a backlist I was going to have translated and I didn't have the funds to do it, that's one of those things. Like, I think I'd be okay with it. But thankfully I haven't had to make that decision. But that's one of the things that I'm like, I honestly don't know how I feel about it. I could argue both sides.
Yeah. There's two things I want to say to both of those, because and I don't know, this is just stuff that I've heard talked about in the author indie sphere, is that for translations, even when you think you're going to a translator person who's doing it, I've heard that they will put it through an AI
that'd be crazy not to, though.
And then just go through it themselves and then charge you as if they had translated every line by themselves. And
we never know.
And we didn't. And this is something that's been happening for years.
And I guarantee that's what publishers will be doing too, because translation costs are a huge cost of business. So you'd be mad not to. It'll be like saying I don't understand why they wouldn't do it for the first place.
Mm.
But
Well,
that
I like to
human
think of
touch
that.
will add. It's like something that's mass produced versus something that's hand painted kind of thing. You want them to go in and then hand paint it with that's always going to be better than just something that's spat out. But, that's just me.
Mm. What were you going to say, Cher?
Well, I personally have experience with AI audio because I wanted to do it ethically, how I was feeling ethically about it. So I actually did find a translator who had, like really good reviews and all that sort of thing. So I did do that and had a proofreader for some German books. And I think it cost me within the region of about $20,000 for a series. And I wanted to do it because I wanted to do it the right way, but soon became apparent to me that the chances of earning back that money anytime soon to enable me to do more was just crazy. And so that very scenario that you posed, Alessandra, with do I never do any audio in translations? Do I never do it because I can't afford to? And so I am doing some AI translations, and I'm not making heaps of money, and I don't know how perfect they are because let's face it, I don't read the languages. I'm never really going to know, but I do have some good reviews, and people are slowly buying them. And through that, I'm actually making back some money so that I can continue. But I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel guilty about it because those books were never going to be up there anyway.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the people that I'm doing it through is Scribe Shadow, and they have
Yeah, I've heard good
proofreaders, and
things
they have,
about them.
so it's not like I'm not giving anybody a job, but I'm
Yeah.
actually creating a product that never would have been there if had I not used AI.
Mm.
And you're also using a human editor, like for once they're transcribed, right?
The
So
proofreading, the
you
proofreading, yeah, yeah,
beg your
yeah,
pardon,
yeah.
proofreader.
And
Yeah.
and like you, Shah, as time goes by, I'm thinking more and more likely that people are going to be running it through first,
Oh,
because otherwise somebody's going to sit there laboriously typing my
from a
manuscript.
translator's point of view, it
Yeah,
makes sense,
yeah, yeah,
but that's just me.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Although, having said that, I went to a translation session at the Writers' Festival, and the two translators, like the two human translators who was talking about it, it was kind of like their love language to a book. Like they were,
Oh,
the translation
absolutely.
wasn't like they translated every word laboriously. They had to, like, one guy was translating it into an English book into Spanish, and
Mm,
he was like, well, some of the sayings don't make sense in
yeah. Oh,
Spanish, and so I have to kind
absolutely.
of take the vibe or the feeling of the book and translate it. So there's definitely an art form around
Oh,
translations,
for
massively.
sure, for
but
sure.
for the
I don't
context of
see
what
it
we're
as an
talking
either
about.
or. I feel
Mm,
like it can be a both. I feel
Yeah.
like for a lot of authors, it might be a machine translation first with perhaps human proofreading. And should you become, Alessandra Torre or a Lucy Score, you have a premium product, if you like, that
mhm,
is fully
Yeah.
human, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Not dissimilar to audiobooks as well. I can sort of see a
mm,
space where there's different versions, and obviously the price points on those two would be different as well.
well,
Maybe
that's
look
mm,
at what we've got now. When last time we talked, well, the first time we talked to you, Alessandra, 2020, if we had have talked about special editions, hardcovers,
Yes.
painted
Yeah.
edges, sprayed
Yeah.
edges, I beg your pardon,
Yeah.
people selling from Shopify, like
Yeah.
that's only 5 years ago,
yeah.
Yeah.
the
Mm.
world is developing all the time, and I
Mm.
think it's
And there's
We would have said
audio.
everything's going online, right? Wouldn't we? Like,
yeah,
5, 6 years ago, we said, oh,
I would have think.
printers dying off. It's going to go. We're all going to be on Kindles,
Mhm.
and and now suddenly printers back. Everyone wants their print books on the back of their wall, and
And they're paying
thanks to
big,
TikTok.
and a lot of fans are paying huge money for these,
Mm,
the,
yeah. So
so
anyway, now
anyway,
we've gotten off track, but
I did,
well, I think
yeah.
the
And
thing.
we should let
I
Alessandra
did.
talk because she's the guest. We should
Yeah,
stop.
it just
I
amazes me, this industry.
I wish I could remember the name of the audiobook company, and I'm taking myself because I know. But I did talked to an audiobook company recently. They wanted to sponsor at InkersCon, and InkersCon is doing the same thing as kind of y'all. I mean, we're avoiding anything AI just until it stops being like so controversial, because we don't want to create strife among attendees. But this audiobook company, she was going into like how they compensate their narrators that was trained on and blah blah blah, and you can train your own voice. Like if I wanted to, like, I could talk for like a period of time, and then it would train on my voice, and then that's what it would use to create it. And so I'm like, well, who is that hurting, you know? I mean, I'm not again. So and it will be really interesting to see, like, yeah, like where we're in a year or two. And it might be one of those things where right now it's really, I think it's one of those things, it's a good and a bad thing. Like in 5 years, we'll probably be back here and we'll be like, can you believe there was a time where it was like controversial to do AI in your, like,
Exactly.
translations? Like, so.
Yeah.
It's just that process of change and being
it's
in the middle of it
interesting
is hard.
times. And I think it is so individual. I think it's, like you can't actually judge other people, I don't think, because you're not living their life. You don't know what they can afford, how they can produce stuff. If they've got a good idea and they can write a good story, I mean, surely they deserve to have it out there,
Yeah.
in many formats.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the more practical stuff to do with AI. I feel like we've kind of aired it. I think the ethical side of things we've kind of talked about enough, unless there's anyone who wants to add anything else. No. So what are some of the so if someone hasn't dipped their toes into AI at all and they're kind of not sure about it, and maybe some of our conversation has convinced them that maybe they could try a little bit around the edges, what's some of the, like, can you give us an idea of AI as an assistant for an author? What that looks like and what you might use it for?
Yeah. Well, there's I would think about all of the tasks that you hate to do. You know what I mean? So for example, the easiest thing, and I'll avoid marketing copy for a minute because maybe you have an issue with that. So we'll stick that to the side for a minute. But recently I had a full length manuscript that I submitted to my editor, and it came back and there was time continue. I had issues with my time. Okay. And this is one of the things that I abhor as an author is like, I never know when it's Tuesday versus a Wednesday. I have people going to work on a Sunday. You know what I mean? It's just like, I can't keep track of how long this person's been kidnapped, whatever. So I had an issue with that. Like the person had been somewhere for 12 hours and they should have only been there for 3 or whatever. And so I have an account, ChatGPT. And so if you are wanting to baby step, I would create an account, ChatGPT. I pay for my account. It's like $10 a month. I'm pretty sure. And I go into incognito mode whenever there's this little like make yourself invisible or something. That's what I do if I ever give my manuscript to it. But it also, I believe if you pay, it doesn't train on your manuscript. It doesn't do anything with your files. But I uploaded my manuscript and I said this. I just cut and pasted what the editor said. And I said, I have some time continuity issues. Can you identify all of these places where I have issues, but also check the whole thing to make sure there aren't any other issues? And so like 45 seconds later, it was like, in chapter 12, here's the issue. Here's my suggestion. Change it to Tuesday. Then that fixes 3 chapters later where there's this other issue, whatever. It would have taken me, when I say days, I mean, it would have taken me a week and I would have cried 3 times, like during the process. Like, so I literally could make the changes. It was right on everything. And I fixed it and I sent it back, and like the end. And it also discovered like 2 other things I didn't want, how that were wrong. So that's like an example. Another thing, I was writing a book, and I decided to use this detective couple that I had used in a book I'd written 4 years ago. I was like, oh, this would be a good way to tie these 2 like standalones together. I'll use that couple that I already created in the past. But it's been 4 years, 5 years since I wrote that story. And so I submitted that to ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, you just can type to it like it's a person. So I said, hey, I wrote this book a long time ago, and I can't really remember the details of these two characters, Farah and Kevin. Will you read this manuscript and put all of the detail and share all of the details about them? So it wrote this like 3-page summary of like their relatives and any detail I mentioned, like he drives a blue F-250 truck, he, eats Doritos, whatever. Like it was every detail about this character I had ever mentioned at any scene in this book. And I had it all there. And again, I was like, a minute later, I would have had to read that entire thing, like try to write notes. I would have gotten distracted. It would have taken me a week to read that book. So those were just things that instantly saved me time, money. I say, and money, it saved me time. The other thing that I like to do is I'll keep it up on the side when I'm writing. And anytime I need a research detail, I go to there versus Google, because if I go to Google, one, I get distracted. And two, you open a website and then you see something else,
sure.
and you have like a Facebook notification or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll have that. And when I need something like, I needed a drug that would knock out someone similar to chloroform for this domestic suspense I was writing. But I typed out all of this. Like I said, first of all, I said, I'm writing a novel, because otherwise a lot of times it won't tell you stuff like that, because it thinks you're doing something nefarious. So I'm like, I'm writing a novel, and it knows that I write novels all the time. And this is what I'm looking for. Can you tell me something that would do this? And it gave me like 3 options, like very well researched, all the details about it. But then it was like, you could just make something up, like it's a novel, like just say like a powerless gas. Like you don't have to say that. And I was like, you know what? You're totally right. So I was like, why do I feel a need? It's not like the kidnappers are gonna be like, grab that can of sodium, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? They're just gonna like uncap this can and screw it. So it also has some like good ideas for that situation. But I've had like, a scene in the Sequoia National Forest in California in winter, and I wanted to know what like the forest would smell like at that time of year, or would there be leaves on the trees, and just asking it things like that, instead of me spending forever trying to figure out like what type of bush my character is hiding behind that would have foliage or be flowering, and would it be flowering, and what would that flower smell like. I can just ask it, and it can do the research, and it takes me 3 minutes, and then I have things back. So I use it for those sort of things. I had to outline my entire book. I had to create, a book Bible or a series Bible. I can give it,
I was going to say, it's a huge time saver on the series Bibles. Yeah. Yeah.
So that
have you ever had it make mistakes, like when it did that series Bible, or did the book for you again, the one that was 4 years back? Did it get everything right? Like that sort of.
It got everything right. Well, I didn't read the book to see, but when I was looking through, I was like, oh, that's right. And I was like, how did I even know that? And then I was like, oh, there was that one random scene where he talked about like Aunt Myrtle or something like that. So I didn't notice any discrepancies or issues with that. There have been times where it has gotten something wrong, or it's misunderstood something. I write a lot of dual first person point of views, and I'm sure that it's the same. Marlo sometimes gets confused about that, because if you're not real clear with your headers, sometimes it doesn't know who's talking.
Yeah.
Or potentially I could be a little confusing with my, writing.
Not.
But
I think
it's surely not. No,
we're
going to blame
the prompting is always perfect, Alessandra. Always perfect. Yeah. But you can also ask, I think, and I mean, we've all seen on the memes online about chat giving some insane answers, and not disputing that at all. I think as time goes on, it gets better and better and better. I don't use chat. I'm a Claude girl, but exactly the same process. But you can also, what I like about Claude, and I'm not sure I don't use chat, is that it gives you the references. So it gives you the links to the references where it got that information from. If you're researching something non-fiction, like, so I do it the same for, because I write books set in the States. I've been there a lot, but it's very different living there. And so, if this person is in Portland, Oregon in April, what's the weather like, kind of thing. And this is where, that kind of, and it will below, it will link me to the, weather.com or whatever, Portland tourism, it gives you the, and so that sort of adds a level of sort of surety. But I will, if it's something that I'm like, really? A little bit like we had a off-camera reindeer conversation, I would say, are you sure? Can you just double check that? And then I'd be like,
Yeah, one thing that's horrible about is numbers and adding. Like I've given ChatGPT like 20 numbers to add up. It gave me like seven. I was like, you're wrong. And you're like, you're right. And then it gave me a new answer, also wrong. I was like, how can you do all this complex stuff and you can't
never
add
say
20 numbers
how
together?
how many words is this paragraph? And it'll tell you anything from like 10 to 2000. Yeah, I know. It's very few occasions where I'd say I'm better at maths than something, but I'm better at maths.
So what's one kind of low stakes way that an author could add AI to their thing? Like where would you start?
Well, I'm biased. I would start at Authors AI. No, in actuality, Authors AI, it's authors.ai, and we have Marlo, who is a developmental editor. So basically, if you can't afford a human developmental editor or developmental editors, we have a lot. We worked with over a dozen in creating different portions of the report, and they would love you to do a strong self-edit before you ever give it to them. And Marlo is fantastic feedback for that. You can upload your report and upload your manuscript. It's safe. It's not ever seen by anybody. In 15 minutes, you'll have a bunch of feedback of different things you can fix and different things you've done well. But other than that, you are probably using it. If you have any type of proofreading software, you're probably using it. Things like, Vellum uses it. You're using AI in a variety of different ways. But if you're like, I do want to do things, look at what you hate to do. And what you hate to do in your process, there is probably a technical solution that could take it. I don't mean writing. If you hate writing, you should find another job to do. You know what I mean? But if you hate, like, one of the first, when I finish a manuscript, one of the first things I do, I let it sit for a period of time. And then the first thing I used to always do is outline it. I would outline it. And I do think there is value in me reading it as I'm outlining it. But the problem is I would start editing as I went. But I really needed to outline it just so I could see how often I was switching point of views and if there were scenes that I could remove or that sort of thing. And that, took me like a week, for that process. And it was something I didn't like to do, but it was really helpful, even though it was laborious. Like, that's something now I would just, have a technology do. I would have Chat or Claude. Claude is better for fiction. But if you're new to the world, I don't want to throw too many things at you. So ChatGPT is really easy and it's free. You could just go and just play around. And the other thing I like to use it for is like writing a 1-paragraph summary of my book, or like and I'll use those to create, or I say, hey, I want to create like a bunch of TikTok reels. Can you create like 10 taglines for my book or that sort of thing?
It's really good for your newsletter for doing subject lines and the little preview inside. I just say, can you give, this is for my culinary cozy mystery newsletter, and I've got these promos coming out. It'll come out with all these suggestions, what it could look like for a tagline, for a subject line.
Because
that's a great point.
Yeah, I think a lot of
you kind of stopped talking when you were saying, oh, well, let's not talk about marketing, but let's talk about marketing, because
it's a big pain point, isn't it, for a lot of authors? That sort of is the part that people groan over.
And I don't know, you said that authors don't like, or there's people who don't like using it for marketing, but I feel like, to me, that's the bit that I'm more comfortable using AI with than using it on my manuscript, because
you've already made the product kind of thing, and it feels
I've written the book now. I don't mind using it to help me do all that other stuff. Is that not a normal viewpoint?
No, I think it's a normal use. I think I am sensitive to it because just last week I saw an author ranting about, like, I can create my own hooks or what, it was an anti-AI post. So I think I'm potentially sensitive, unnecessarily sensitive about it. but I think it's absolutely ethical use case. And like I said, none of us are, I mean, typically hiring marketing firms to write our copy. And if we did, they would probably not do a great job, or they would just use ChatGPT to do it. So, yeah. So, book descriptions is something authors really struggle with, and it does a really good job. And what I like to say when I enter, so if you're new to the prompt is what you type into like the box, and the better you are with the prompt and the more things that you tell it, the better job it does. So I have either given it the entire manuscript and I've said, I want to write a really high converting sales description, for this book that will go on my retailer page. Please, use your knowledge of, best-selling sales descriptions, or high converting fiction descriptions, and ask me any questions that you have. And so a lot of times it'll ask you some questions that'll help you do you want it to be more character focused? Do you want it to be moody? Do you want it to be this or that? Then it'll ask you some questions, but then it'll give you a book description, or just copy and paste your existing book description and say, please, make this sound better. I've asked it to create a media kit for me, or a pitch kit. And I always say, like, ask me any questions that will help you do a better job of this. But as far as with hooks and one-liners, or like I say, I'm going to write a newsletter to my audience and share this book with them. I have a little concerns. This is different than my other books. Can you, type up something that pitches them on this book, or something that explains that, that this is, a warning or a disclaimer that this is different. And it does a great job of just like concisely sharing your story. Or I'll say, like, no spoilers. I want to make sure that we don't mention this. And that sort of thing. It does a great job. I wish I could remember. There's a software that creates TikTok, like,
it's called Author Scale.
Yeah, that's it.
I haven't used it. Yeah.
Author Scale, you upload your manuscript and then you tell it, like, how long of slideshows you want, and it'll create it. It creates the graphics behind it, or you can upload graphics if like image creation is like one of your lines in the sand. But it does a really good job. Some of them it pulls out, you're like, this is garbage. But then you're like, oh, I like that. Or, oh, I didn't even think about that, and it does. I created a bunch. It's one of those things. I created a bunch, saved them, never ever uploaded them anywhere.
Human nature, right?
30 minutes, I got a lot done that I never used.
That's it. That's it. I think it's the time saving aspect, and it to me it's as much the mental load saving as it is, so then I've got that for the creativity side of things. And I mean, I'm a marketer, and I know in the marketing industry, I think it is definitely shrinking. Like, people like myself that were the people that would write the hooks and write the things, the time that might have been a 6-hour sort of period to do that for a particular manuscript now is down to 1 hour. But you still need the human knowledge behind what to select. Like, you can't shortcut the knowledge about publishing a good book. You've got to know. You're directing, whether it's the AI or whether it's another person, you've got to think of them as another person and speak to them like they're another person. But you've still got to know what makes a good marketing hook, what the readers want, what are the, you've got to still have that fundamental understanding. And I think that's important to kind of point out to people, that it doesn't, using an AI doesn't take away from the onus on the author themselves to understand that the industry that they're in. You might not have to be sitting there typing out the marketing copy, but you need the knowledge to understand which is the better marketing copy to pick, kind of thing. If you're writing a super tropey, insta-love monster romance, you've got to know that those keywords, that are gonna. I just feel that that's so important, and that sometimes gets lost in the conversation. It's not a replacement for human knowledge. And that innate understanding of what readers really want. It can give you the analysis of it, but I still think that you've got to bring the humanity to the table in decision making.
I just want to, I don't know how much time we have left, but I just want to say I was having a conversation with Dr. Matthew Jockers, who's the co-founder, who wrote the bestseller code. And he really has studied, and we were having like a frank conversation, like where do we think this, how bad is generative AI going to be like for authors? Like how bad is this? And he was like, I wrote a blog post, and I don't think he's published it yet because I keep waiting for it, but he sent me a draft of it. And it really made me feel so much better as an author, because what he said in it, and I'm going to do a really bad job because he wrote it so beautifully. I'm going to do a really bad job of stating it. But the gist of it is that computers work in patterns, right? So
yeah,
what AI that has been trained to write a book or write a scene has read millions and millions of scenes, and they have learned that this follows this follows this. And what happens after that happens over and over and over again, and it is happening more and more because it's getting smarter and smarter, is it becomes basically like processed food. Okay.
yeah.
So it starts to lose all originality because it's recreating what it's picking pieces about. So do you have a well-constructed scene that has a beginning, middle, and end, and has characters who behave in a logical manner? Yes. Like, are you going to have like that moment of plot twist, or that like are you going to have a laugh out loud moment? Yes, probably. Like, it's actually gotten really good at humor, and things like that. But what is going to happen is you're just going to start having like a whole book that is blah. And it's not even going to start happening. It's already happening. Like, if he was saying, if you read a long enough thing, it's just very like this, like it has the exact amount of modulation that it thinks it should have in order to do this. But it's like processed food. You just start to lose all originality. And he's like, so that is where we, as unpredictable human beings with, like life, experiences that mold our unique personality, are unique and different. And that is why it will never be able to write a masterpiece. It might write something that is widespread, commercially appealing, because that is what it knows, and it knows how to do that. But it's going to be a Sweet Valley High book. It's not going to be, like Judy Blume's whatever that Margaret,
yeah.
Are you there?
Dear God, I'm Margaret, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So it's not going to be something outside of the norm, or that is different, or that is anything unique, or that you run home and tell your best friend about because you just read this book, like gripped you. And that gave me like such peace, like reading that, is that, but what I think is going to be harder and harder is something we're already dealing with. And that's why I'm excited on the technology side to say, like, okay, how can we surface books that are great, or that are stand out, or that are different, and that are discovering what really appeals to this specific reader, because every reader has a different DNA of what they like. Because what we are struggling with now is a saturated market, but also like everyone's getting so good with packaging that it's really hard to know like what book.
Definitely.
We can only describe a book in 100 words so many ways, and the better you get at packaging, the harder it is. And my fear is that readers will be reading books and just be disappointed, and every time you have a reader have an interaction with a book that isn't like great, it makes the chance of them picking up another book a little less. And so I think they'll really start becoming loyal to certain authors and becoming less likely to try new authors, which is sad. But I think that's our future.
Yeah. So which makes it more important to us as authors to kind of create the brand around ourselves and to draw readers into us. And so things like newsletters and creating, like, I don't know, just places for readers to come and be around us kind of more important, maybe, if that's what people are going to be doing.
Yeah.
And I feel it myself. I'm like, I've got a favorite author at the moment, and I'm just like looking around at all these other books I could read. Like my TBR pile is literally an entire shelf of books on my, not these ones, I've read all these ones, but the ones in my room. And I don't want any of them. I want another book by this one particular author that I love. And I don't know, I seriously doubt that AI could replicate her, because she's so quirky and everything is bouncing, like, I don't know, maybe it could, but I'm connecting to her as the author and to her stories, because I can feel her same voice in all of the stories, even though they're quite different stories every time. And that's what I think maybe we have to think about as authors, trying to kind of navigate this new world, perhaps, based on what you're saying. And I also think the other thing with AI is like, what we have felt, and I have felt, and I think all the Spa Girls have felt for a long time, is there's so much that we have to do as indie authors. There's so many things that we have to be good at in so many different areas. It's not just about the writing, it's like the marketing and the social media and getting out there and doing all these things and trying to be good at all these different areas, that actually it makes a lot of sense to use AI to help us kind of rein in that kind of expectation of being amazing at everything, and just being able to allow us to focus in back on that, writing that book a little bit more, and not have to be amazing at everything.
It's also great for the admin. Just very quickly, just to add on to what Alessandra was saying about a sort of a entry, if you like it, or a tool. I use it. I upload my KDP report, because numbers scare me and spreadsheets really scare me. Like, I'm just not good, and it frightens me. Not in a good way. I don't know, I've just got this hang up about maths, and I say, how does this look? Like, how does it look compared? And it's really good at that. And that's not, wherever little AI brain wants to do with it is fine with me, kind of thing. And that's nothing to do with generative AI or, anything creative. It's the opposite of creative to me. And I'm like, I had a very experimental last year, and I tried different genres, and I tried, on a couple of different pens, and I kind of thought I had known what was the best way to go in terms of business, like purely business, and I call him he, because he's a he, and he said, this is where you should be focusing if you want to write that for, like this, and this is what the numbers say. And I found that really, really helpful, because there's no emotion behind it or bias. It's just purely on the numbers. Another option.
Yeah. I like that. I like the idea of also like putting in your business plan and saying, please look this over, give me any ideas. Yeah. Or like, I really want to expand, my like diversify my income.
Yeah.
But ask me questions, that will help you give me some guidance. And like you said, it's not biased.
No.
If you go screw you, it's not going to get us so
screw you, I'm not doing any of that.
Horrible idea.
I've been operating like that
for you're right, it is a horrible idea. How about this?
Just know that they are programmed to tell you you're amazing all the time. But you know what, sometimes it's actually really nice to be spoken to kindly. Like, I think sometimes it's a nice thing. It's a machine, but actually having a little word of encouragement is not a bad thing. It's a tough world out there.
Wherever you can get it.
So, Alessandra, I think we are coming towards the end of the interview here, but I just want to ask you, so if what would you say to an author who's out there who's kind of been paralyzed or scared or worried about this, all the AI stuff's happening around them, or feeling guilty or curious, or what would you say to them? How would they approach it?
The perfect thing to say. I think I would say, first of all, you can go through your creative process however you'd like to. Feel free to use AI as much or as little as you want. What I heard someone say the other day that kind of resonated with me was that, like, unfortunately, AI is here. So it's and it's up to you if you want. But if you but ignoring it could cause others to advance faster than you. You know what I mean? I mean, so like it's absolutely great to figure out how you feel about it and then to draw your lines wherever you'd like in the sand. But to staunchly ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist and refuse to use it to your own detriment, I feel is a mistake. So if anything that we said today or discussed, you're like, oh, that I'd be okay with, then again, I would look at what the part of your processes that you hate to do, and is there a way that AI can do those for you? And then look at also your budget and what you can afford, or maybe the opportunities that you aren't capitalizing on because you don't have the budget for it, like editing. There are so many new authors that don't have a budget for editing, or they can only afford maybe a proofreader or something like that. And there's so like AI is so smart, like let it work for you in those areas, because if you aren't taking money out of someone's pocket, especially if you can't afford a developmental editor, or and like line editing at Grammarly is fantastic for line editing. There's so many like really good tools out there that could help you create better books at a lower price.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. That's perfect. All right. And what is your hope for the author community, and how we'll be using AI responsibly in the future? How would you like it to go forward?
I mean,
you can say I don't know.
I personally really don't love generative AI coming into the creative space. So in a perfect world, I would have generative AI stop any further future developments. You know what I mean? And I feel like the tools at our disposal right now are great, and I don't know that I need any more tools than we have. So my hope for the author community is just that there isn't necessarily hostility or judgment on one side or the other based on who's using AI for what purposes. I hope that we can do what we can to protect the creative process and to amplify, human voices over AI, and do something to stop the oversaturation. I love new authors coming into the space. What I don't love is like, somebody publishing a book a day that's AI created. I mean, that just hurts my, soul. So, and unfortunately, there are tools for that. It's much worse in nonfiction than in fiction. In the nonfiction space, I mean, if I was a nonfiction author, I don't know that I wouldn't just like, I mean, I don't know how I'd be able to handle that, but it is in our fiction space as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I want isn't necessarily possible, but I would love to all live in harmony and happiness, and everybody.
That's it. I want to stop the witch hunt, stop accusing people, and just it doesn't serve anything, and it just adds to your stress.
I think it's done out of fear, and I can totally get it, right? Like I totally get this idea that this thing is coming in and it's going to destroy my ability to write and create and do all the things that I want to do and that I've learned to do over the last few years. But on the other hand of that, I think we can use it in some ways to help us and to provide us with, things that don't take away from our creativity and don't destroy the things that we are trying to create here with our words and our books that we're putting out there. So I think there's hope for that. And I'm really hopeful, actually, based on what you're saying, that the blog post that you're talking about, the idea that actually what the AI could create is very bland and are certain things, and we have the human originality on our side that will hopefully keep us, in the game.
Yeah,
I like to hope.
on the wider front, I personally think that the actual focus on these, particularly on creative writing, is going to be so minuscule compared to what their development is in other areas. I think we're just a blip in the ocean generally, which may go towards supporting your hope, Alessandra. That's my personal, maybe a little bit Pollyanna. But I do think even if you don't want to use it, even in an assistive way, I think it's important that authors understand it is being used. It is being used on all the retailer platforms. It's being used on all social media. It is being used
businesses everywhere. What was the
and it's replacing in many ways. It's replacing search. It's replacing your search engines. So it's even if you don't want to use it, you need to understand it is is being used. You can't silo yourself from it. So when you're, for example, building your website, you've got to make sure that you use keywords in that website of what you're writing. So it will be, Joe Smith writing, thriller suspense and for readers that enjoy blah, 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 blah. Just that kind of thing is so important now because those AIs will be using those keywords. So when somebody puts in a search, that will be what's coming up. Even if you don't use it in any other aspect, you just need to know that it is being used.
Yeah.
And it isn't going away.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
One of the advantages of aging, one of the many advantages of aging is I've been through going from photography from a darkroom to Photoshop, which was going to be the end of photography. I've seen industries go because I used to work in the newspaper industry, so I've literally seen entire not industries, but jobs. I do understand that comes with massive shift, but I've also seen, and I think we all remember this, the days before self-publishing. Self-publishing, I remember, Joe Conrad's tsunami of shit, was going to come in and decimate publishing. So I think with any major change, I think there's always fear around there. I totally get that. I totally do. But I do think I do think that eventually progress benefits. There's always a benefit. Yes, and I just also think that I don't know. I feel very positive about the future.
That's good.
Good.
Yay. And on that note,
I think that's important. Yeah, I think that's important. It's not all doom and gloom. Like this
No.
So many things have happened. I've been in this industry 13 years, something like that. So many things have happened. There've been so many times like we've all been here a while. Like this is just another development. And so it and the readers stick with us, you know what I mean? I mean the readers
people still want to be around the fire pit listening to a story. They still do.
Yeah.
From another human.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So on that note, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Alessandra.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
That's good. And so if someone wants to get in contact with you, find out more, where's the best place to go?
Absolutely. So if you're interested in my books, alessandratorre.com. And if you're interested in trying out Marlowe, you can visit authors.ai and try Marlowe there. Marlowe has a free report. It's not great, but it'll let you see like the upload process. And there is some interesting things there that it will surface. And then the pro report is very affordable. I mean, you can get started for less than $20, or you can, purchase a single report. So yeah, it's very affordable. So it's designed for that.
So thank you so much. And we can be found, Shah?
We can be found at Spargirls Podcast, so Self-Publishing Authors Podcast, which is us, but yes, spargirlspodcast.com. We can be found. We are, I would say, conservatively 50 people away from 4,000 on YouTube. And I know that I said I wouldn't beg for any more subscribers, but should you be inclined just to get us over that 4,000 mark, that would make us a very happy woman. Just saying. So that's it. Spy Girls Podcast. We like to make us happy. Yeah,
we like us. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Alessandra. We've had a fantastic chat here today. I feel very happy with everything we've said, and I hope that everyone who's listening has taken something positive from it, and maybe something to think about and go forward with. But that's us for now. We'll see you all again next week with another episode. But for now, farewell.
Keep well.
Bye.
Bye, guys.